Well, hey guys, welcome to the channel, welcome to my stream, and yet another chapter working on that guy right there. That is our GMC Syclone by Revell. Get the intro going please, and we'll get started, okay? No, now. Yeah, yeah, come on. Let's please, run the intro please. Yeah. Okay guys, we're back to the bench, and we're going to continue on our build. Last time we got our master cylinder installed, we put some brake lines in there, we got the air conditioner compressor all hooked up and everything, so the truck's got air conditioning and it's got brakes now. So we're just going to continue on, see what's next. Off camera I did a little polishing on our hood. Actually, what I had to wind up doing was wet sanding the hood a bunch. And I see that after wet sanding, I let it dry and I forgot to polish. So I do need to polish this. And similar on the roof, I need to touch it up. I've got a little bit of white. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. I want to show you guys. I haven't seen this before and I'm not sure what it is. You can see that white right in this corner here. I don't know what I need to do to fix that. I don't know if I need to sand that down, if that's just something that's happened with the clear when the clear finally cured. I don't know, but I need to figure that out. I might have to do a little research and figure out what exactly I need to do. Otherwise, I am going to have to wet sand that down and and fix that too. Yeah, so I do need to polish the hood, but I'm not going to do that today. We're going to focus on other things. I'm still assembling this thing after all. Let's change the camera and we'll see what's next here. Okay, so we finished off putting in the air compressor, or they call it the evaporator actually, for the air conditioning. So that's been put in. So next was the air filter and the oil filter all in the same piece. You're going to mix your oil with your air. So I've glued the oil filter onto the box of the air filter, and this has to go in. Now this is something that's kind of interesting. So this box has to drop down into this big cavity in here. I've got so much stuff on my desk right now. Doing 5 projects at the same time. It's not good for my desk. Okay, so this box has to go into this cavity here. Then our hose is going to come up across over top of our radiator and then drop back down on top of our turbo. So this has to go like that, and that's got to drop in just kind of like this. Now there was a couple of pins. There were a couple of pins on the underside of this hose, here and here. They didn't line up with anything, and so they were making it sit proud. I was thinking maybe they're supposed to tuck into these little slots here, right there and there. But if I did that, it brought the hose way too far forward and did not line up at all. And so I wound up just trimming off the pins. And so the hose can sit where it's supposed to, and it's going to be happy in its home and all that fun stuff. The trick is going to be, this has to sit level like this, and that's where it's going to have to sit. It's just like this. It doesn't quite line up, but there isn't really anything I can do about that, because this is hard plastic, if I get it to sit right down and touch that, this doesn't really work. I could try heating it up and maybe bending the plastic a little bit to get it to line up better, but I think it's just one of those little details that you're just going to have to live with, the fact that it doesn't really make contact, because when I make it touch, it doesn't line up anywhere else. If I get everything else lined up, then it doesn't touch. So it's just one of those things. I can get it really close, if I just ignore the fact and I just focus on it sitting in here and on top of this, I can try and drop it. I can try and drop it. Dropping it is always an option. You can always drop it, you know. So I'm going to try and do this without getting my head in the way. Just line that up there. It just doesn't quite do it. I kind of want to get in there, and there's a little peg that's sticking up on top of the turbo there. I want to get in there and trim that off. I want to trim that peg off if I can get in there with my nippers. It's one half of it. Just trim that off a little bit. As I'm kind of thinking maybe get a little piece of rubber and just extend that just a little tiny bit. And when I say rubber, I mean like maybe a piece of my wire. That's a pretty close diameter. I could just glue that on there. Just maybe a little tiny bit. Let's just take a little section about that long. That. And I could put that here. Like so. That'll work. Okay. Now to do this, I'm going to need CA glue. Of course, this is gone and sealed up on me. Always does. Here we go. That's the problem with CA glue, you know. I think everybody has the same problem. Your tips always clog up. Solid on you. Okay, so what I'm going to do, it's going to be a little bit difficult to do without getting glue on my fingers. But I'm going to try anyway. I want to grab this just on the tip. That. I'm going to dip this end in. That. And then there we go. And now with that on there, we're going to do a little bit of accelerator just to make sure it dries before I start playing around with it. Just tap this out a little bit. Dry up. Alright, we've got a little rubber end on there to extend the length on that. Now I'm going to trim the rubber so that it's actually straight. So it looks a little better. Okay. Nice thing about this is I can trim this now to length if I need to. So let's drop this back in and see how we're looking. that lined up on there. It's a little hard to see. We'll put it there. I'm actually, now I'm about maybe 1/2 millimeter too long. So, but that's good. I'd rather put a piece on there that's too long, because now I can trim it. Trim it down to what we need. Oh, it came off. My CA didn't hold. So we got to do this again. Okay. Well, that's been trimmed, so oh, I realize I'm doing this totally off camera and just sticking my head in the camera. Sorry, guys. This is kind of where it needs to go, but it's not lined up. I gotta get this box right up against the firewall here to get it lined up. And even when I do that, it doesn't go all the way. My little extension does not want to stay on there, and that's bugging the hell out of me. We'll get it, we'll get it. I have a feeling my oil filter is actually interfering on the fender well and not allowing the box to go perfectly all the way. Like it's supposed to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shave down the oil filter on this edge, and it's because it's like this, but the fender is on this kind of an angle like that, like this, right? So we're going to shave our oil filter down a little bit to match the curvature of the inner fender well. Fortunately, you can't even see the oil filter from the top, so only you guys are going to know that I've done this. Going subtle with it, not going too crazy. Okay, I think that should do it. Allow us to tuck in right against the firewall. Yeah, I'm not feeling the same resistance anymore. Okay, so we're going to change things up a little bit. Instead of putting my little rubber tube on here, I'm going to put it on top of the turbo. That's what I'm going to do. So, my little tube here is right there. I'm going to get my CA glue applicator, put that on the turbo. Where it connects. There we go. And then get our go. Okay, I think we're ready for glue. I'm going to put some glue here on the bottom of this guy and along here. Okay, I'm going to start with that. How do I want to hold it here? There we go. So he's in. So he's touching along here, so I'm going to put a little dab of glue there. Get some extra thin. Right along here. Because he's not really making contact properly on the turbo, so I'm going to leave that. Looks like we got contact here. You got more than one point of contact. That's good, right? You want that. There we go. So that's installed. Don't need the CA glue no more, so I'll just soak this up with my Q-tip. Okay. All right, so what's next? With that installed, we've got our radiator cowl goes across there, and that's going to go across the front. I've taken that off of the sprue, and I've got this all painted up nice. So we take, it's got our detailed part here, and then it's got a flat edge on this one side. And it looks like this flat edge is supposed to go towards the front. And she's going to tuck in right down in there. It's like right across here. Like this. And does it tuck, go down? Does it slip inside? I'm not sure. It looks like it just goes right there. Like that. It doesn't seem to go down any further. It just sits right in front of the battery and our little tube. Okay. Now this is the one you would expect to have a couple of pins to fit through here, but no, there's nothing. So nothing at all. So I'm going to put some glue along a couple of points underneath, where it seems to be connecting. Drop that down into place. There we go. That seems to be it. A little push just to make sure. And I'd say, there we go, we have it. Okay. Just like that. So that's in. And now we're going to do windows. Right? I don't want to do the windows. I want to do windows last. Okay? And I also had a request. I asked the guy who's commissioned me to build this thing, I asked him if he wanted his back window tinted. And he said yes. So I'm going to tint the back window. But what does that entail? Well, I could try spray painting it. That's always an option. Now we have two windows. They give us an option of having the whole window or having a sliding one. Every reference photo I've seen online, they have a single back window. They don't have the sliding one. So I'm going to actually use the single back window. Now one thing I hate is when they attach these things on a sprue with a really wide thing. So what I'm going to do, let's put the truck over here for a second. To get this off the sprue, I like to actually use my knife and cut these like this and scribe it very lightly, nothing too heavy-handed, because it's easy to crack clear styrene. So I just kind of slowly cut through like this until it finally comes away. If that takes a few minutes, then so be it. If it takes 30 cuts, that doesn't matter. There we go. Perfect. See? No cracks, no nothing. I'll do that later when it comes to the windshield. But we need to, I'm going to tint the back window. Now, like I said, I can actually use some Tamiya smoke color and spray paint it. Or, since, you know, usually when people tint their rear windows, they're tinting it with 5% tint, which is very dark and not easy to see through at all. What does that look like in scale? Well, it basically looks like you can't see through it at all. And so guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to paint this. I'm just going to paint the inside of the window black. That is the easiest and best way to replicate 5% window tint. Okay, now this does have some detail. We've got our window trim on here as well, so that obviously is the outside, and that's going to go in like this, and that just fits perfect like that in there. There's really not much else to do. That's just going to drop in like that, and then I'm going to glue it. But I already can tell, I'm looking at the back of this, and I can see I've got cracks in my clear right here, just like I did on the hood. Now I wet sanded the hood, and that totally fixed that, so I'm going to have to wet sand the roof. So if I'm not doing windows, what am I going to do next? Well, I'm going to look at the book here and see. We've got the front windshield with its mirror, but we're not doing the windows. We're going to do that later. Windshield wipers, well, since they got to go on top of the window, I can't do the wipers yet. Next, well, we could work on our front end. We can work on our lights. We could put our headlights in. We could do that. Let's do our headlights, because the headlights are ready to go. They're already in there. So let's grab the clear lights. Headlight lenses. They are number 105, and that is these two guys here. There we go. Let's get these separated. Okay. Clean them up a little bit. Make sure our nubs are clean. Want them to fit in the bezel properly. So you have to clean them up. Okay. Now these are kind of contoured. One side is completely flat and the other is kind of convex, concave, convex, I think it's convex. It sticks out. We're going to do a little dry fit here, just to see how they do fit. Where'd my tweezers go? Let's put this one here. There. So they do. It's not the best fit as far as fitting flush. Yeah, there we go, we're in there. Okay, so that fits just like that. So the trick is going to keep these, how do you keep these clear, right? How do you keep them from fogging up? Now, how do you get it out of there? Get out of there. There we go. So there's a couple of things you can do. They have a certain glue that you can use specifically for, that's basically advertised for canopy on airplane, canopy glue. Now I have used the Tamiya Extra Thin quite a bit on my on my lights and stuff on my aircraft and on my canopies too, and I've had fairly good success. But I've noticed, like, after a week or so, when I look at the model, it's kind of turned a little bit white, and so I have gone and changed my method to good old Elmer's glue. Now I'm going to try the clear. Normally guys use the Elmer's white glue, right? That's a very popular choice. I'm going to try the clear because, hey, it's supposed to, it's starting out clear, it's not even white. I know that Elmer's glue does dry clear, like a good 90% clear. But if I can start out with clear, why not? So I'm just going to put it on a piece of paper here. Take a little bit out of the bottle. I want to kind of do this so I get a little bit of a cave. There we go. Okay. Now that's way more than I need, but that's not the point. Take my toothpick that I've got here, and we're going to dab a little bit on the inside here where it's sitting. This stuff is thick, but that's okay. Again, it's supposed to dry clear, right? So if it dries clear, it doesn't matter. Okay, I think I got enough in there to get our first light, our first lens. Okay. This guy, put him down on there. Press, and there we go. One lens in. Okay. Let's go with the next one. Okay, I think we got lots in there now. this one. And put him in there. Just like that. Let's get the lens lined up, please. No, you're supposed to line up. There you go. Alright. Lens is in. Just like that. We got our lenses in, guys. We're going to focus on the truck. There we go. Lenses are in. Alright. You might be thinking, just like I did when I first heard that guys use Elmer's white glue to glue their canopies and their windows and stuff like that. Isn't Elmer's just for paper? You know, that's what I always thought. Elmer's was for paper, but apparently it glues this stuff pretty good. As long as you don't play around with it too much, it's fine. And something like the headlight lenses, you're not going to get in there and be playing with them and touching them and stuff like that. That should hold forever. So that should be great, okay? Which leads us next to our driving lights and our turn signals. So these are clear lenses, which means we need to do some painting here and here and here and here. So we're going to use some Molotow chrome, because I need to have chrome in behind there just like you would in a real light, because we're going to be putting clear lenses over top of them, right? So we need to have chrome in there. And Molotow liquid chrome is the perfect candidate for that. I'm going to get my little brush so that I can get in there. This is the refill, so it's not the actual pen. There we go. Just put a little on my brush. And we're just going to go very carefully inside here. There's one. Okay. Let's get some more. The Molotow does like to go on thick. If you try and put a light coat of Molotow on, it just goes on like silver. It doesn't stay chrome. Molotow likes to be put on thick. That's the magic of Molotow chrome, is that it's thick. The problem with Molotow chrome is it's very fragile. It's an ink, it's not actual paint. And that's the drawback to Molotow chrome. Because it's ink, it doesn't fully cure. It's kind of like, you know, your regular Bic pen. Your Bic pen that you use to write all the time, if it wasn't getting absorbed into the paper, it wouldn't dry. Right? So what happens with Molotow chrome is, even if you give it a week to dry, you go back and you touch it. Whoops, I did too much there now. You go back and you touch it, it just turns silver. It wipes away, it wipes off on you. And while I'm doing this, I want to get in here with our GMC emblem with the chrome. Okay, while I'm doing this, while I've got this, I want to get in there on our emblem. I'm going to do that too. So we've got our chrome GMC now. That is going to be, I'm going to go over that GMC emblem with a clear red later on. Okay, so I do need to clean my brush, so we're going to do that now. Okay, and I do need to let that Molotow, you know, at least try and dry a little bit. So I need to wait before I actually start playing around with my lights or anything like that. Okay. So the other thing we can do, we got license plates to put on. Number 93, we can put our license plates on. Number 93. There we go. Black license plates. One. Two. I think that's it for what's on the sprue. I think that ends this sprue. That's it. There's nothing else on here. Good. Which means we've got into the sprue garbage. Sometimes on these kits they have little buttons or nubs or something for to guide the license plate. This truck doesn't seem to have anything like that. Looks like the license plates are just an afterthought. In fact, yeah, there's no pin, there's no guide hole, there's nothing. We could just leave it and not even put a license plate on there. I'm actually going to ask the guy if he wants the plates on before I put them on. If he wants license plates on it or not. Yeah, we have our typical cutout on the back for the plate in the back. That's pretty obvious. That goes in there like that, right? So he might want that, but maybe not on the front. I'm gonna have to ask him before I commit to doing either. So, which of course is the next step, is putting on that rear bumper. So let's take a look at the rear bumper and see how this fits. Rear bumper, remember, is just going to have these two little cutouts here are going to go and match in on the frame. You can see those cutouts there. If I get it in the right light, you can see them there, here and here. Okay, those are just going to sit on the frame. Whoops, right here and here, because these are not tight enough to actually hold it. So it's literally just going to sit in there. My exhaust has to come down below it, but it's sitting a little high right now. So we have to kind of wedge it in there and get it like that. The exhaust is actually going to help me hold it, sort of. Get it lined up. Just do that, and it just sits like that. Like so. I can kind of get it lined up. Perfect like that. I want to make sure. I don't really want to make sure of anything. just want it lined up as best as I can and in the middle. And I want the angle as it curves down, I want it to match the curvature of the fenders or the rear skirts as best as I can. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to commit to the glue on this the way it is now. There we go. Okay. Rear bumper is installed. Although very loosely. I basically have to let that sit and not touch it for a while. And let the glue do its thing. Okay, but there we go. Rear bumper installed. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. So, rear bumper's in. That's step 55. 55 is done. 56, of course, would have us put our skirts on, but we've already got them on. The thing's all on and painted and done. So we can switch to our mirrors, our rear view mirrors. We've got to put the chrome in our mirrors, the actual mirror part, inside the housing. So we're going to take chrome number 28 and 29, looks like lefts and rights, okay? So let's take mirror housing 15 and match it with 28, okay? Let's get this untangled from my clear sprue. 28. Okay. Before I take this off here, I'm going to decide which side actually goes in towards, because just like everything else on the chrome, we've got to scrape it away. So on this side of the mirror, we've got an ejector pin mark. That's the side I'm going to put towards the inside of the housing, which means this side gets all the chrome scraped off. And that's also going to help me determine when I'm actually putting it on to gluing them together, which side goes which way. Okay, so this helps a lot. By doing this while it's on the sprue, I'm going to do this with the other one too. This, get that all scraped, nice. Another thing we can do is get the edges. Because a lot of times these become a tight fit, and because of that extra, you know, half a millimeter that the plating does to the dimensions of the part, sometimes they don't fit perfectly, and it takes that just that extra little scraping of the edge to get it to fit. Okay, so that's done. Let's get this off the sprue number 28. Okay, this guy here. And we've got to clean up that nub. Okay. Okay, there we go. And now number 15 was a mirror, right? The last sprue in the box. Only things we got left on here are mirrors and our windshield wipers. So number 15. It's funny, we've got number 15 and number 150. Okay. There's our driver's mirror. The mirrors are not body color on this truck. They are just flat black, which is kind of typical. It's usually on like some kind of a higher trim level on trucks where you get body colored mirrors. Okay, so we're just going to put this in. Now my nub is still a little bit visible on this, on the top here, so I want to get rid of that. There we go. Even though it's probably never going to be noticed. Let's see how she fits in there. Yeah, fits pretty good. Alright, there's our mirror. So, a little bit of extra thin should secure that in there nicely. Nice thing about the extra thin, it doesn't do anything to chrome. There we go. Done. Installed. Okay. That's that one. Now, it looks like it's got a hole, it's going to go in a hole. And they do have a hole right here on the side. So that shouldn't be too hard to just stick in the hole. Hey, it even just sits on its own. But how proud do we want it sticking out is the question. Do we want it sticking in the hole nicely, or I'm going to open up the hole just a little bit. Just so I can definitively get it stuck in there. That's better. That's perfect. And kind of because I don't have any windshield in there, I can make sure this sits flush. Because it's kind of sticking through here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? It's sticking through right in there. Right? So I want it to sit flush and not poke through. That just looks a little weird. Whoops. Let's try this again. I want it to sit flush. I don't want it sticking out. Right about there. Okay. Extra thin. Right there. Gonna hold it into place. It's straight up and down, just like it would be in real life. There we go. Mirrors installed. One of them. Alright. Let's work on the other one. Looks like I got just enough time to get this one installed. And then take off. I gotta take off, eh? Yeah. A. Saying A. Can you tell I'm Canadian? Tell me you're Canadian without saying you're Canadian. A. Yeah. Okay. That's ready. Let's grab our chrome. They're nice enough to give me a spare set of headlight buckets. I don't know why, but we've got a spare on there. And I've got my rear view mirror that I'm going to have to deal with later. But I can do something like this. Bing, 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 and bang and get rid of this. That's what's left of my chrome sprue. Okay, clean up our nub on our mirror. We'll put our mirror in. Get our glass installed in our mirror. Okay, glass is mounted. There we go. Okay, give that a second and take a sip of coffee. And dry fit. Dry fit before commit. Just like the other side, this is a little tight. This hole doesn't go all the way through. And that's the problem with this one. It needs a little help. There we go. This one needs a little bit of convincing to go in the hole. I'm going to make sure we're drilled all the way through here. There we go. There we go. We're in. We're in too far, but we're in. There we go. Perfect. And we're glued in. There we go. Make sure they're both the proper angle and the proper height. This one's sticking up a little bit. There we go. Foot back. There we go, guys. The mirrors are on. All right. We got our mirrors on. Just like that. Okay. And that is about the time that I need to call it a day. So this is where I'm going to have to leave it. We're going to let the mirrors dry. We're going to let the rear bumper dry, and we're going to let our chrome dry on the front. Next time, we're going to be doing the lights. We're going to put in the our signal lights and stuff like that. So off camera, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the clear lenses. Our turn signals need to be orange or amber. I'm going to use my Tamiya Clear Orange X26. I'm going to use that to paint our signal lights and that fun stuff. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank all the airplanes for taking off while I'm talking at the same time. And I want to thank for the new subscribers. Thanks for the likes and comments I've seen. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, we're going to leave it for today, and we'll see you all on the next one.